Black and chocolate-coated Labradors both have plenty of admirers, but it might surprise you to find out there's more to these gorgeous coats than just colour. These equally beautiful dogs haven't always been appreciated on the same level. In fact, for a good chunk of Labrador history, one colour was definitely, and quite horrendously, the preferred pick. And it's not just about history. Today I'll be digging into the real differences beyond appearance. So whether you're a die-hard Black Lab fan, a lover of luscious chocolate coats, or simply curious about these incredible dogs, stick around. We're about to uncover some surprising stuff. Chocolate Labradors and Black Labradors obviously both belong to the same breed, the Labrador Retriever, which means they have the same ancestry and a lot of shared history, but they haven't always been considered equal. In fact, from the inception of the Labrador breed in the early 1800s all the way through to the 1960s, Black Labs were much more desirable. Chocolate Lab puppies, or liver as they were known at the time, were frequently culled at birth, which seems shocking to us as modern dog lovers. It's not clear if there was ever even any reasoning for this besides a strong preference for the look of the black dogs. Then in the mid-20th century, Chocolate Labs started to appear in things like field trials and at dog shows, and gradually, fortunately, their popularity started to rise. These days both colours are popular as working dogs, show dogs, and obviously family pets. However, the number of new Black Lab puppies every year is still consistently much higher than the number of Chocolate Lab puppies, and that's because black is a dominant genetic coat colour in the breed, so they're much more commonly found. Chocolate Labs have a recessive genetic, so each parent needs to carry the potential for this trait for the brown colour to overpower the default black. You can get both American and English Labs in black or brown shades, but most Chocolate Labs have at least some show breeding in their lineage, as this is where the colour first rose to popularity. For this reason, lots of Chocolate Labradors have a stockier build than their Black Lab cousins. All Labradors are medium-large athletic dogs with handsome features and a dense double coat. Black Labs obviously have black fur, and Chocolate Labs have a fur that ranges from a sort of mahogany to a deep dark brown. In either colour, a small patch of white on the chest is okay, and Black Labs have black noses and eye rims and mid to dark brown eyes, whereas Chocolate Labs have brown noses and eye rims and light brown or hazel eyes. Although all Labs weigh between 55 to 80 pounds, one UK study found that the Chocolate Labradors weighed on average about 3 pounds more than the black or yellow Labradors. But the biggest determiner of a Labrador's size and looks is their sex and whether they come from show or working lines. Male Labs are typically bigger than females, and show Labradors, also known as the English type, are shorter and stockier than the working ones. Show Labradors are also more likely to still sport that famous Labrador otter tail. So what about personality? Do the differences between black and Chocolate Labradors go any further than fur deep? Well, it's a hotly contested topic. Historically, one of the reasons Chocolate Labs were less popular as working dogs is because they were regarded as less intelligent and too boisterous. Stereotypes like this have the potential to become self-fulfilling prophecies, with breeders starting to focus on producing litters that are black and bred specifically for work. So what does the research say? Well, in 2014, researchers at the Edinburgh University surveyed owners of nearly 2,000 Labradors in the UK. They reported Chocolate Labs were noisier, more likely to become agitated when ignored, and more excitable than black dogs. But on the other hand, a 2019 survey of 225 Labradors in Australia didn't find any evidence at all that Chocolate Labs were more likely to be hyperactive or aggressive. In many ways, the results raise more questions than they answer. Is one study right and one wrong? Are both right, but the link between colour and temperament is only established in breeding lines in some countries? Or is this link a result of other factors, like chocolate and black labs being raised differently? Perhaps black labs are more likely to be destined for field work, for example. Respondents to both the British and Australian surveys were also asked to give a measure of their labs' trainability. In both sets of results, Chocolate Labs were regarded as less trainable than Black Labs, and what's more, according to the Australian study, Black Labs who carried the brown coat gene but didn't express it were also perceived as less trainable. This is interesting because it supports the idea that trainability may have a genetic component which linked to the gene for the brown coat colour, and discernible even when the trainer doesn't know that the gene is present. So is this bad news for Chocolate Labs? Well, it's important to appreciate that Chocolate Labs are still very intelligent dogs who respond well to positive reinforcement training, and what we can't tell from the studies is the background of the human trainers behind the dogs. For example, someone who works their lab or participates in field trials will have a much higher training expectation than a family who keep their dog as a pet. And when it comes to choosing between a chocolate or a black Labrador as a pet, even reach the level of training where any difference in ability ever becomes apparent anyway. What about health? Well, in the UK, a 2018 study of Labrador life expectancy reported noted that chocolate Labradors have a shorter than average lifespan. It was in fact quite significant in that particular study, with chocolate Labradors showing 10.7-year lifespan compared to 12.1 for the other colours. However, the researchers couldn't speculate whether that applies to Labradors in other countries too. In the UK as well, a review of veterinary records of 2,074 labs also found that chocolate Labradors were more likely to experience ear infections and hotspots than black or yellow Labradors. However, they found them less associated with the POMC gene, which is linked to excessive appetite. In terms of exercise, chocolate and black labs are perfectly matched. Their energy levels will hinge much more on the breeding lines than their coat colour. Labs from working lines tend to be more driven and motivated to work, and they might need more daily exercise before they're ready to relax at home, whereas English Labs can be more content to go with the flow and, dare I say it, a little more sedentary. So does that mean one colour makes a better pet than the other? Well, any colour of Labrador can be the perfect pet in the right home, and we're fortunate that Labrador's popularity means that we have more evidence about the effect of coat colour than any other dog breed, but there are still lots of missing pieces in the research. It's possible that chocolate and black Labradors may have slightly different temperaments, and potentially that chocolate Labradors might have slightly worse health or a shorter lifespan compared to black Labs. But it's not clear how much these differences are a result of having been rather neglected and out of favour for most of Labrador history. Chocolate Labs are just as loving and loyal as black Labs. So it's possible, with as much attention to breeding for health and personality, they too could be just as long-lived and trainable. Only time will tell. But what do you think? Do you agree with the differences between chocolate and black Labs in the surveys that we've looked at today? What's your own experience? Let us know in the comments section, and if you want to find out more about the wonderful Labrador Retriever, then pop over to the Labrador site.